Who is this? Well, this is just one of two sheep that I've recently painted. Stay tuned to see how it happens. And like with all of my paintings, I start with toning the panel to get the white out. It's a two-step process where I put down some pigment, usually transparent iron oxide red, with a brush mixed with a lot of medium, and then take a paper towel, as you see me do here, and wipe a lot of it off. I just want to get a mid-tone, like value 4 range on here so that I can judge the other values better. So let's get started with drawing. I'm thinking about taking this off and bringing it up a little higher. I'm gonna start over, guys. The top of the deer to come up like about here. It's not unusual for me or any other artist to have a line drawing done, and I use oil paints to do this. And the reason is really it's easy to take off. I would not ever use a pencil or charcoal. I don't like the possible risk for contamination using those items, contaminating the fresh color that I'm going to put on it with oil. So I just stick with the oil medium and dilute it and use a thinner, smaller brush to draw with. And it's easier for me because if I don't lay it in correctly the first time, and I would say probably 50% chance that I won't, I can take it all off and then work the adjustments right away. That's the key. If you take it all off, do not wait until the next day to redraw it. Draw it right away so that you can have that clear, fresh insight from the failed drawing. A drawing tip is to always look for easy shapes. Now that can be, for instance, for the body, you could say, oh, I could just make a lima bean for the body, a big lima bean. So you could do that. You could just make that big old shape, and then when that's done, you can put in more detail. Another trick is to use negative shapes. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if you look at the front legs, you will see that there's a space in between the front legs. That's the negative shape. If you draw that shape in, you already have 2 lines to the front legs done when you're finished. You just need to draw the outer lines. So that's a trick. It does take a little bit of training of the eye, but once you get that down, boy, it makes drawing a whole lot easier. And just a side note, whenever you see hesitation in the brush, like you'll see me draw down a line and then you'll see it stop, I'm looking at my photo reference when I'm doing that to make sure I'm getting it right. So I'll draw, stop, and check with the photo reference. So I think you can see that this is a much better use of the space that I'm working with. We're just going to do shapes. That's just a little too dark. What you see me blocking in here is the darker shapes, and I'm trying to just see large passages. So I'm not putting in a little bit of dark around the ear and then putting in a little bit of dark around the other side of the ear, I'm trying to connect all of this into one big shape. I'm about to discover my first drawing mistake. It's becoming clear to me because as I block in these shapes, I'm seeing it. And why is that? Because for some reason, I can see shapes to describe things better than I can see lines to describe things. So usually when I get to this stage of a painting and there's any drawing mistakes, I fix them as I see them. Starting with this lamb, we're going to start with some detail. I don't have video footage of this, but we'll be all right. I don't know why it happens, but sometimes when I think I'm pressing record, I'm not. Here's a close-up of the photo source. This is from my church's bulletin from this week. And I just thought they were so adorable. I knew when I saw them that I was going to make a painting of them. Watch closely. I'm going to actually remove color to form that part of the jaw. We're going to stop and move on to this guy, the center of attention. There's going to be more detail in this one. Let's get his eyes in. Right now I'm using my scrape out tool to create the lightest light around the eyes. There is some tissue there that is lighter in color than the rest of the sheep is. So it's easier for me to use this tool than to try to paint it in with a small thin brush. And now we're doing the highlights in the eyes. And now I'm using some lighter color to bring out the eye socket area. And it's right about here that I notice that this eye needs to be brought up a little higher. I just wipe it out for now. I'm going to proceed with the rest of the face before I make a decision on how to place that eye permanently. Okay, I'm using my scrape out tool once again. absolutely annoying. I did all this work and I didn't have my camera on. You know, I'm very sorry about that. I really thought that I was turning the camera on. I was pressing record, but either, I don't know, something happened. I don't know if I got distracted or what happened, but I'm very sorry about losing the footage. But let's see if I can make it up to you with the rest of the painting. Bring in some background color. Now, really, this should be more on the blue side. So the green that I'm trying to paint is further back in the background. To do that, you need to have the green on the bluish side, which means when you mix your green, the blue that you add should be more dominant. And I'm sure you can see that I'm painting it in lighter than I originally started. That is because the further back something goes, the lighter and more bluer it is in order to have atmospheric perspective. Now, there's no sky here right now, but I do end up doing something like a sky towards the end, and you'll see that. It just makes better sense for this painting. Sometimes you have to walk away from the photo reference and do what's best for the painting. And I do that later in this video. Let's be extra careful around these ears. I wouldn't want the brush to wipe away those precious little ears. Looking at them, they really do have a personality of their own. They're so cute. You're probably noticing also that I'm doing a technique called scrubbing in. So I am not by any means putting in final color here. I'm basically putting in a very thin layer of what I consider to be the proper value. So that's the most important, is the proper value. What do I mean by value? I'm sure most of you already know the answer, but it's how light or how dark it is compared to what's already on the painting. So in other words, the artist is judging values all the way through the painting process. So I'm applying some neutral washes here to the background. It has almost a watercolor effect, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. And here I'm preparing to paint in the tall grasses. But to get started, I need to block in a base color. That's something that took me a while to learn, because when I was newer at painting, I would just try to paint in each individual grass blade, and that was wrong. It just got overworked really quick. So I've learned to just block in a patch of the base color whenever it comes to tall grass. Do that step first. And now I'm starting to put in the blades of grass. The reason why you want to have the base tone is there's going to be areas where you see through the grass, and you have to have something to see through too, and that is the base tone, and that's what gives it the 3D effect. I've slowed down this passage so you can see a couple of things. I'm dragging paint, and I'm also applying very, very light pressure on that brush. Right here, you're going to see my brush begin to blend in that patch of green. Now that's just something that you learn when is the right time to do that kind of approach. You learn that by practice. Vary the direction of the grass. You're going to see a happy accident right now. And why do I call that a happy accident? Well, I tried to use the rubber brush to do what my current brush is doing. And what I ended up doing with the rubber brush was a little bit too wide of a blade of grass. So I took my regular brush and started to work into it, noticing that I was removing paint. So the happy accident is I could use the brush to remove paint to make lighter blades of grass and have more control over that. Here you'll see me trying to come up with shorter blades of grass and maybe more curves, the variety that is necessary to make this part of the painting interesting. I think lighten up and lighten through here. And by applying this lighter color, the goal is to draw the viewer's eye right back to the center of attention, which is these two sheep. I'm trying to make another layer of grass to make it look more 3D. And here is where I begin to suggest a sky. It's just a lighter blue. It could be a sky, it could be something else, but it's necessary for the success of this painting. And you can see right away that it varies from the photo reference. But that's okay. I'm not trying to copy the photo reference. I'm merely doing what's best for the painting at this point. And about copyright issues with the photograph, I know that the photographer got paid for using that photograph in a religious setting. And I feel like I made a painting from that photograph. I did not copy his photograph and publish it for sale under my own name. Like, in other words, take a photo of his photograph. I didn't do that. I used it merely as a jumping off point to create a painting. So I feel like I'm safe there. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. And here you see me signing the painting. It's finished. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is very important to me as I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel.